So Project Veritas is quite busy exposing CNN, while ABC News, on the other hand, is exposing themselves. I want to go through the top fake news stories just over the past couple of years from the mainstream media and how they've been revealed to be fake news, and many of them didn't even issue retractions. We're going to start with the CNN insider who blew the whistle on network president Jeff Zucker of CNN and his personal vendetta against President Trump. We're also going to talk about, again, the ABC News story where they pulled some obscure footage from YouTube of a Kentucky gun range and tried to tell their viewers that it was exclusive video from Turkey as Turkish forces massacre the Kurds that Donald Trump left behind, as well as a few other interesting stories that you may have forgotten about. Now, before we get into all of that, I just want to thank this video's sponsor. This video has been brought to you by Virtual Shield. The world-famous delivery app, DoorDash, has announced that its security has been breached. Hackers have unloaded data on 4.9 million of its users. It seems like every other day another powerful app has been compromised. Who's going to be next? One of the best things that you can do to help protect yourself online is sign up for a free 30-day trial of Virtual Shield VPN. This will allow you to create a secure connection to another network over the internet. Virtual Shield can be used to shield your browsing activity from prying eyes, whether on a public Wi-Fi connection, foreign country, or just at home. And we all know there have been problems in foreign country with them banning certain channels and completely deleting certain content from their internet, and the VPN will help you get past that. Here, let me show you how easy it is. I'm going to go to virtualshield.com and download the free 30-day trial, install it, and click Connect. Once I'm connected, as you can see, my IP address is now completely different than before. This month, Virtual Shield is offering a Halloween month-long special of 25% off all VPN plans and all premium add-ons, including Protection Plus, Residential Access, and VIP Performance plans for as low as the cost of a cup of coffee. Sign up for a free 30-day trial to Virtual Shield VPN and see what the hype is about. You have nothing to lose. So make sure to click the link in the description below. So let's get to this first story here. This is from Project Veritas. They've been exposing CNN lately, releasing several different parts of this CNN expose, where their CNN insider blew the whistle on network president Jeff Zucker's personal vendetta against President Trump. Their insider's name is Kerry Port, who works at CNN's Washington, D.C. bureau, of course not any longer, and he said that he decided to wear a hidden camera to expose the bias. He recorded Zucker's 9 a.m. daily rundown calls, which basically just amounted to Jeff Zucker saying, don't focus on anything else other than impeachment. Obviously, that's like a financial decision, just like the whole Russiagate was. Zucker to staffers, impeachment is the story. Ignore other stories. Employees ordered by Zucker to knock off their friendliness toward Lindsey Graham. And several other things have been revealed from, of course, this CNN expose. I guess more notably, CNN employees have vocally announced that they want to cover other stories. They want to cover this scoop or that scoop, but Jeff Zucker said, no, you are not going to cover these stories. You are going to cover impeachment. You are going to cover Trump. Why? I would say that it's probably obvious. It's because it brings the ratings, just like with MSNBC and Russiagate and that whole fake hoax story, and why Rachel Maddow said the word Russia about 250,000 times over the past 2 years, right? And this is something that even Ted Koppel said right to the face of Brian Stelter. Now, Brian Stelter denied this while the audience laughed at Brian Stelter because everyone knows it's true, but Ted Koppel said that, listen, your ratings would be in the floor if it weren't for President Trump. Take a listen.
Oh, I think that we've left out a key word. Yeah, everybody here keeps talking about ideology and politics. Money. Money.
Money.
Money. Donald Trump has been very, very good for baseball. He has been wonderful for the industry. Your boss acknowledged as much a number of months ago during the campaign.
Les Moonves,
Donald Trump, huh?
It was Les Moonves who acknowledged
Les Moonves also acknowledged it, but so did the head of CNN.
But that means what?
If
ratings are up, that means what?
The ratings are up. It means you can't do without Donald Trump.
So while Project Veritas exposes CNN, ABC News appears to be exposing themselves. There was a recent story where ABC News pulled some obscure footage from YouTube of a Kentucky gun range and tried to convince their viewers that it was exclusive footage from Turkey. The Turks are attacking Syria. The Turks are attacking the Kurds, the helpless ally that President Trump left behind. Now, I don't buy the narrative that this was an accident. Trust me, you shouldn't. If you're smart enough, you shouldn't buy the narrative that this was actually an accident. This was intentional. They intentionally actually edited the darkness and lightness and cropped the clip to convince their audience that this was actually exclusive Syria footage or exclusive Turkish footage, Turkey attacking the Kurds in Syria that President Trump left behind. And you can tell this from the differences in the video. You expect me to believe that someone in the back room at ABC News just accidentally pulled this footage from YouTube and it was an accident? No, this was intentional. And if no one caught them, if no one called them out on their BS, then they would have just continued with this footage. And many of their audience would have probably believed that this was exclusive footage from the Middle East somewhere. So just take a look at these videos side by side. You can see that the original footage from YouTube, from the Kentucky gun range, where they're just firing off these weapons here, you can see it's bright enough to where you can see the onlookers, to where you can see a lot of the audience watching this gun fire off at this Kentucky gun range. Now, in the ABC clip, it was deceptively edited to the point where you can't see the audience. You can't see the people looking on at this Kentucky gun range. And their lower third is in the way. So you can see that this was intentionally, deceptively edited to make their viewers believe that this was exclusive footage from Turkey, and Orange Man is bad because he left our ally, the Kurds, behind, when they're not even our ally, by the way. Turkey is a NATO ally. The Kurds are not. The Kurds have turned on us several times. The Kurds are anarcho-communists. And for as much as the media talks about how Trump is destroying NATO because he's demanding more money, they sure as heck don't care about our NATO ally, who is Turkey, not the Kurds. Now, another recent fake news story I want to go over with you today was the story from and we're going to focus on the New York Times here, but all of the media outlets reported on this story. This is from the New York Times on the left here. Black Virginia girl says white classmates cut her dreadlocks on playground. 3 white students. You can see how race is very apparent here in their original headline when they thought that this fake hoax hate crime, which most of them are, was real. Now, when they found out that the fake hoax hate crime was fake, there was no mention of race whatsoever in their correction to the story 3 days later. Virginia girl recants story of boys cutting off her dreadlocks. Now, here's the next fake news story that I want to go over with you today. This is from CNN, who Project Veritas is exposing currently. This is how they reported on the Black Hebrew Israelites at the whole Covington Catholic Kids debacle. Now, for the longest time, at least for the beginning, until the alternative media had to correct them, I was one of the first, by the way, not to toot my own horn at all, but I was one of the first there to go through the live stream footage and tell you the truth about what happened with the Covington Catholic Kids. Now they're suing CNN and, of course, New York Times, I think, and a whole bunch of others, NBC, MSNBC. But there were the Black Hebrew Israelites. Now, this is like a black separatist, black nationalist group, who accounts for the largest amount of groups, by the way, according to the SPLC's own hate map, despite only making up 13% of the American population, by the way. But this is how CNN reported on this group.
And 4 African-American young men, or African-American young men preaching about the Bible and oppression.
So they said they stormed in the face of this Native American Vietnam veteran, and nearby, there were 4 African-American young men preaching about the Bible and oppression. Right? We found out later during the live stream, of course, that it was the Native American guy who stormed into the face of these kids and started banging the drum in their face. They didn't know what was going on. Of course, we found out he wasn't even a Vietnam veteran. The Washington Post, of course, had to retract their story because of a YouTuber who pulled up the military history of him. Of course, what happened to that guy? Well, YouTube banned his entire channel after 8 years of being on YouTube because the Washington Post demanded them to, right? So after all of that, this is how CNN reported on them.
4 African-American young men preaching about the Bible and oppression.
But here's the truth. Here's what they were truly saying.
Back of your dollar bill, it says, in God we trust, but you give faggots rights.
Now, here's another fake news story. You are fake news. Trump attacked CNN and BuzzFeed at press conference. So there was this major BuzzFeed scoop, right, if you recall, about the Trump-Russia collusion hoax, right? And we had to deal with, 2 years of, Time magazine covers depicting the White House as the Kremlin, and CNN and the New York Times claiming that Trump was like a secret Russian agent, and Rachel Maddow and MSNBC saying the word Russia 250,000 times. But there was this BuzzFeed scoop that CNN reported on, that MSNBC reported on, that the New York Times reported on, and Washington Post, and all the rest of these mainstream outlets that turned out to be fake. And it wasn't debunked by the alternative media. It was debunked by Robert Mueller himself. And after CNN's major screw-up on this, reporting this as true, someone came on CNN and said the thing that I think that we all were thinking.
A lot of people are going to take from this story is that the news media are a bunch of leftist liars who are dying to get the president, and they're willing to lie to do it.
So here's another fake story that I want to go over today with you. This is still, CNN hasn't issued a retraction on this. None of the mainstream outlets have ever issued a retraction on this. I have a very easy explanation for this for you coming up next. But as you can see behind me, you see a CNN video on YouTube right now, to this day, from November 25th of 2015, that is titled, Trump Mocks Reporter with Disability. This is still on their YouTube channel. You can see it right here. Trump Mocks Reporter with Disability. This is right from the CNN's YouTube channel, as you can see here. Their verified channel. Now, the truth is that this is fake news. And a lot of people who watch CNN, a lot of people who sort of consume left-wing news media content, still believe this to be the case, still believe that he actually mocked a disabled reporter. When the truth is, if you look at various rallies, and someone put together this compilation that I'm going to show you a clip of next, he makes the same exact hand gestures, and actually more exaggerated in some instances, as he did during this, while talking about this reporter with a disability, right? It wasn't that he was mocking him, and this is even what Trump said. This was the White House's explanation, is that Trump makes sort of quirky hand gestures sometimes. It was that he was making this hand gesture in the context of fake news, right? And this is what he has done in the past. So take a look at this compilation of him making the same hand gestures before.
When you see the president of the bank, I mentioned the word regulated. What do you think about ISIS? Oh, ISIS is very tough.
They said, Senator Cruz, what do you think of waterboarding? I don't want to talk about it. You know,
The poor guy, you got to see this guy.
I don't know what I said. I don't remember.
Now, here's something that I don't know if you all recall or not, but CNN gave this guy the Journalist of the Year award not too long ago. His name was Klaus Relodius. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. He worked for an outlet called Der Spiegel, which was an outlet who's won awards in the past. And this was a man who was reporting on the Trump-Russia hoax, a man who's been, apparently, allegedly, to the Midwest to report on Trump and Trump voters. Well, what happened was it turns out that all of his sources and mostly all of his stories were completely made up. They were complete fiction. And this was found out about him, and they recanted the CNN Journalist of the Year award. So this tells you all you need to know pretty much about CNN and who they provide the Journalist of the Year award to, outside of what Project Veritas has exposed, outside of what I just showed you today. But here's from NBC News. A German reporter stripped of CNN Journalist of the Year awards for fabricating stories. So they gave him Journalist of the Year awards. So plural, not singular. They've given him multiple Journalist of the Year awards from CNN. German magazine Der Spiegel, where Klaus Relodius worked as a freelancer and later full-time, said Wednesday that he had fabricated interviews and facts in at least 14 articles. And then, of course, the last thing that I want to go over with you today is this is on the redelephants.com. I encourage you to go there. And, of course, we just got a new shipment of hats in. So for the people who are saying that we're out of hats, when are we going to get the new hats? They're all in. You can go to the shop and you can get the hats right now. But go to theredelephants.com. This article's up there. Blacks keep attacking and killing random white and Jewish people, but the media ignores because attackers are not white or right-wing, right? So what are we hearing? We're seeing congressional hearings on the rise in white nationalism, the rise in hate crimes, and the rise in white supremacy, and all the rest of this BS garbage. But the truth of the matter is that when you actually look at the actual stories that the media is not reporting on, this is part of the fake news, right? This is an example of fake news when they withhold stories, when they withhold context, or don't report on stories at all to convince you of something. That's also part of fake news instead of just outright lying like they do, or these leaks that are coming out of Project Veritas. But here we go. This is on theredelephants.com. The silence from the mainstream media on attacks that are becoming more and more prevalent all across America is quite deafening. According to a recent report by the Bureau of Justice, there were I linked to the Bureau of Justice report. There were 593,598 interracial victimizations between blacks and whites last year. Blacks committed 537,000 of those interracial felonies, or 90%, and whites committed less than 10%. Attacks on whites by blacks is not a new phenomenon. It's not new at all. The Bureau of Justice mentioned from last year is consistent with recent years, so why haven't we heard anything from our beloved media talking heads about these attacks? So outside of the original Bureau of Justice report that we linked to in the beginning of the article, you also have this other Bureau of Justice report that shows that interracial violent crime from 2012 to 2015 shows that 540,000 interracial crimes were black on white. 404,000 were Hispanic on white. So these are the majority. And much deeper than that, if we look at hate crimes, we're always hearing about the rise in hate crimes and how we have to have congressional hearings on like white nationalism or something. You look at the actual hate crimes per the FBI, black Americans commit a rate of hate crimes that is 3 times higher than white Americans, according to FBI statistics. And I go through the math with you here so you understand it for the layman out there, right? Because there's a lot of people that don't understand this. I don't understand why, but there's a lot of people who don't understand this. And then when we go to the SPLC's own hate map, which was quoted by CNN in the past, we can see that black separatists, like the Hebrew Israelites, are the largest portion of hate groups on the hate map, despite making up only 13% of the American population. So how's that for fake news? I bet you didn't know a lot of this stuff. We go on and we see like many different viral videos going around of like mobs of black teens attacking whites and attacking Jews with bricks and knives and guns, killing them and shooting them and beating them up and beating them down. But we hear nothing about this, of course, from the mainstream media. Well, what we do hear is that, it's racism that causes a disproportionate amount of black Americans in prisons across the country. When the truth of the matter, and you've heard even Don Lemon say this in the past, Van Jones fought for the First Step Act, which just released a murderer who I believe is still on the loose, by the way, released them early because of the First Step Act. I called that one. But we hear Van Jones and Don Lemon and CNN always talk about how there's a disproportionate amount of black Americans in American prisons because of racism. Well, that's not at all the case. If we look at FBI crime statistics for 27% of crimes, you can see that despite only making up 13% of the population, black Americans account for over 50% of all the homicide arrests for 27% of the crimes in 2017. Over 50% despite only making up 13% of the population. Now, it's higher than this even, because when we look at CDC data, which I linked to as well, you can see that African Americans commit a homicide rate of anywhere to from 20 to 50 per 100,000, versus whites were at like 1 per 100,000. But this is what I wanted to show you today, the evolution of fake news. And those are the stories that, of course, I think are most important to point out. The ones whose walk is blameless and who does what is righteous, who speaks the truth from their heart, whoever does these things will not be shaken. Those who walk righteously and speak what is right, those are the ones who will dwell on the heights, whose refuge will be in the mountain fortress. Their bread will be supplied, and water will not fail them. This is about honesty from the Bible. This is Psalm 15:2 and Isaiah 33:15, respectively. Videos are posted every single day here about breaking news topics, so make sure you hit the bell button if you haven't already so that you are notified. Check the description for links to Patreon and PayPal, and of course follow me on Gab, Minds, BitChute, and Instagram. Links in the description as well. And of course these videos only go so far, so be sure to share with family and friends.